Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Cross Culture Critic. I'm your co-host Joe Yerke with Chris Williams.
Hey.
There he is.
There, I'm here.
Hey,
Sorry.
wake up, buddy.
I was in the bathroom.
So anyway, we are back with another episode, and for our little icebreaker, I have something that I was thinking about today. And Chris, 2 questions.
Yeah.
One, if you could go back in time to high school, what, if anything, would you change?
Mm-hmm.
And to get back to high school, what around your house would you turn into the time machine to take you back?
Well, see, I knew about that first part. I didn't know about the second part. But I feel like I got to get that second part first to figure out.
You do. You have to figure out how you're going to go back.
Around my house, we don't have a lot of cool stuff. I sold my DeLorean. I would probably cobble together something out of like toilet paper rolls, potatoes, my wife's jewelry, because you need like a diamond or something to do that. And I don't think she has a diamond, but her engagement ring's probably like cubic zirconia or something like that. Sorry, Kelly. So I would like cobble together something like that.
Okay.
And maybe like the little valve in the toilet, like squeeze that together and put it on my armchair.
Okay.
Like, I don't know.
Is it a lazy boy?
It is a lazy boy because you have to hold the lever and pull it back to go back.
So when you pulled the lever, that's when you would go
Obviously.
back in time.
But you'd have to program when you want to go back using like a speak and spell, obviously, or something like that.
Yeah.
So that's what I would do.
Okay.
To take
You wouldn't do like a Napoleon Dynamite where you put the crystals in the little thing that you held onto and it electrocutes your nuts.
This is reality, Joe.
I thought that was funny in that movie.
I love that movie.
I think if I'm going to go back, again, you want something that when you go back in time, wherever it is, it's not going to be obvious that it's something from the future.
Right, like a lazy boy.
Right, like a lazy boy. I think I would want to travel in something that if you want, you could bring something back, so something large enough. I'm not going to bring my car. I'm not going to do any of that. I was thinking like a refrigerator or a refrigerator box.
Did you ever watch Punky Brewster, though, and they say not to go in a refrigerator?
No.
Okay, they said like that. Sherry got trapped in a refrigerator, and they had to call the cops. They had to get her out of there because she got stuck. Don't do a refrigerator.
Oh, Lord.
Calvin, though, had boxes for that, him and Hobbs. So that might be good.
Okay, because I'm thinking like a refrigerator box, something that, you know what, maybe the box because you could make it flat,
right, it's
and
portable.
then store it. Yep. Yeah. But if it got wet, you'd be screwed. You could be trapped somewhere.
That is true. So you gotta bring an umbrella or something.
Yeah.
Tarp.
So I think Back to the Future, Robert Zemeckis really thought that one through. But anyway, if you could go back, our little icebreaker, if you could go back to high school, what would you do different, if anything?
Oh, man. I know this podcast is around because it's a Christian podcast, and we are people who discuss Christianity and stuff. I hate to say this, but I would be less of a youth group kid.
Yeah.
I would not, I wouldn't abandon my faith, and I wouldn't be, like, throwing keggers or anything like that.
Right.
But I wouldn't
You wouldn't be so uptight?
Yeah, I wouldn't be
like that uptight teenage Christian?
Yeah, I was that horrible youth group kid who, I went to See You at the Pole, which I don't want to disparage See You at the Pole. It's a fine thing. But I went there because I wanted them to, like, laugh so I could say I'd been martyred. I'd been persecuted that day because someone, laughed at me when I was praying.
Right, totally.
And I was a self-righteous ass in high school. So, like, I think I told this on the last one about work. Like, I worked with this girl who swore, and they're like, oh, do you think she's pretty? No, she has a dirty mouth.
She has a dirty mouth. I've used that twice this week already. No, she's got a dirty mouth.
So I would be less standoffish, less judgmental of people who didn't have my faith. I would have fun. I was told these people are not going to like you. They're going to make fun of you. So have nothing to do with them. They're going to get you in trouble. I probably would have gotten in a little trouble.
Yeah.
I think I wouldn't. Like I said, I wouldn't be throwing keggers or anything like that, but I would have friends. I would get into trouble. I would skip class. I would, hang out with people and have fun because it really bothers me that, my youth group were my friends at that time.
Mm-hmm.
They've all left the church. They've all gone. I don't talk to anyone from my youth group anymore.
Okay.
I hate it that when I go to, when it's time for my 20th reunion, like it was a few months ago, I don't go because the only interaction I have with anyone is on Facebook now.
Okay.
People I never talked to in high school, now I talk to them on Facebook, but it's like, yeah, I don't really go to my reunion because I didn't know anyone.
Yeah.
So I would probably loosen up, have some more fun, go to parties. I would hope that high school Chris would get a date. Because that did not happen to high school Chris.
Yeah.
Surprisingly. A charmer like that.
Right.
But also, if this was like a Marty McFly situation where I went back, but like myself is there too, I would kick my ass. Like,
okay. All right.
Like I would be like, just be cooler. And I would definitely warn myself about paying $15 to go see Batman and Robin.
With Chris O'Donnell.
Yeah.
Ooh,
so I would definitely do that. So what about you?
Well, what made me think of this topic for an icebreaker is I recently had to. I signed up for some overtime at the office, and I had to be one of the cops at the local Royal Oak High School football game. And so just like watching the kids and watching how high schoolers interact with each other, watching how they interact with adults, watching them do all this stuff, it just makes you think, if I could go back, and I know this sounds really, 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 really weird, but if I could go back, I don't think I'd change a thing.
Really?
Like, I loved my experience that I had, like, in church, and older in life, like past my 30s, is when I started getting like a little, I think more rebellious, you could probably say, because up through high school, like I was youth group kid. I had fun at youth group. I went to school. I had fun there. So I have no regrets to say I wish I was more youth groupy, because I was, and I loved Christ with all my heart and all that stuff. And I stuck up for kids, and I did all that stuff. And I just had a blast being who I was. And I remember watching these kids at the high school game, and I just thought, you're trying too hard. Like, we didn't do it that way.
Yeah.
And so like I see like I was like putting like me and my friends in where these kids were, and I'm just thinking like these kids wouldn't have lasted like back with like it was just different. And I guess everyone probably says they did it the right way, like as far as beliefs and how you carried yourself, and our music was good, today's music is bad, our clothes were good, today's clothes are goofy, and things like that. Like, I was just looking at these kids, and I'm just like, what they think is funny, like, wouldn't have got a laugh back in the early 90s when I was in high school.
No, when we were more refined. Our sense of humor
absolutely.
Was so much
it was so highbrow. But like I had a blast in school, and to go back, I would love to go back and just be me again. But it's so different nowadays. It is just so different, like seeing these kids interact, and cell phones and all that stuff. Like, nobody knows how to talk to anybody. Nobody knows how to talk to adults. It's this weird thing.
I'm one of the classes I'm taking right now is new media. That's I'm getting a certificate in that, and so we did a whole week talking about like teenage use of social media and phone, and just the rules for etiquette they have for when you can like something, and what can you post on Instagram, and how often should you post on Instagram, and should you put too many selfies, and do you use the heart emoji to like something, or do you use the smiley face with the heart eyes? And I'm like, why are you doing this to yourself? It's hard enough to be a teenager.
That's what I think too.
And here's the thing about being a teenager. I was a gawky teenager. I was always insecure with like how I looked, how I acted, how I talked to people, even though, I didn't like people. I don't want to broadcast that to the world. I don't want another avenue where people can be watching me.
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand why that most awkward age of your life is the age where suddenly you're documenting everything.
Yeah.
So I actually want to do a whole episode about social media down the road.
Oh, we'll have to.
Yeah, I think that would be fun.
We'll have to. But I enjoyed high school immensely. There's a few things I wish, as we start talking and stuff, I'm like, oh, I didn't think of this today. Mm-hmm. But I played soccer my senior year. I wish I would have played it all 4 years because I was a big soccer player. Mm-hmm. And then freshman year, all my friends played football. So I was like, well, I don't want to play soccer if all my friends are playing football, and then I'm like, don't know anybody. So I played football, and now I wish I would have played soccer. The other thing I wish I would have done is I wish I would have begged my mom to take me to the like skin doctor, the dermatologist, because I had awful, awful, right. like not awful when I'm scarred later in life, but like I would dry shave. Like nobody ever taught me how to shave. Okay. So I would just get out of the shower. Not shaving cream, nothing.
Oh, no.
Just take a razor and just shave my face. So to say that I had razor burn, that was I probably didn't have acne. It was probably just razor burn.
Horrible.
And so then like you stumble through life and you realize like, oh, okay, well now I'm going to start using shaving cream because my buddy used it, and then I'm going to start doing this and I'm going to start doing that. And now at age 40, I finally have my whole shaving routine down to where I think it's actually pretty decent. But I'd probably do those two things different. But as far as like interacting and doing all that stuff with other people, I had a blast in high school. And I just look at these kids now and I don't know, there's just something missing. There's just something missing that I don't think I'd want, like...
Yeah, but I think someone the age you are now looking at you in high school would have said the same thing. I think there's always a thing where we look back and we're like...
maybe I'm just so conceited.
Maybe you're just old.
Maybe I'm just so conceited I think I did it all right.
I think everyone does that. Like, our generation was kids these days.
Well, this probably leads into our topic for today, right?
Well, one more thing I would do, I would definitely make sure that my mom and dad got to the Enchantment Under the Sea dance.
Yeah.
I don't know why they would be there in my high school now that I think about that. But...
Hey, I think of one more thing.
Yeah.
Did you ever hear this one? Where that financial advisor would say, hey, at age 16, if you put $10 in your bank account every Friday, by the time you're 30 years old, you'll be a millionaire. I wish I would have done that.
I wish I would have listened to not listened to my high school counselor, who, when I told him I wanted to go to community college to start off college, told me, oh, then you don't need to worry about your ACTs or SATs. Don't take them.
Yes.
I never took my SATs or ACTs. And this is probably after high school, but I wish I would have gone away to college. Like, I went to Wayne State, a very fine school, but I didn't go away. I stayed home, and I wish I would have gone and had a college experience.
See, I went to the School of Hard Knocks. I did Insiders.
Oh, that's right. Well, you did go away.
So high school, so high school ended, and the next year I was in a stinky van traveling all over.
You majored in farting in elevators with Amy Grant.
Exactly. Exactly.
So, that's a fun icebreaker. I like that topic. And it does lead nicely into our main topic. We're going to talk about drankin.
Drankin.
So
get a drank on.
We've mentioned drinking on this podcast before. We actually did drankin IPA on this podcast.
Yes. I wish we would drink more IPAs on this podcast.
Well, we'll see what people say after they hear us talk about drinking.
Right.
It is weird to me that we drank an IPA, drank a beer on this podcast, because I think the me of 10 years ago would not have done that. So I thought that would be an interesting thing.
The me of me 10 years ago would not have done that.
Yeah. So I thought this would be really interesting to talk about, because I've had friends who knew me 10 years ago who've listened to the podcast and are like, it's really weird to hear you talk about drinking. And I'm like, yeah, I guess it is. So obviously we both drink from time to time.
Yeah.
Now, what was it like at your house growing up? Did your parents drink?
Growing up in my house, there was zero alcohol.
Okay.
Zero alcohol. My dad drank. I didn't know he drank until my late teens, but he never did it at the house. It wasn't allowed at my house. So I knew he drank. Again, in my late teens, I found out that he drank. But it was never in my house, nothing like that. And then once I graduated and went into the Insiders, we had some pretty strict rules with the Insiders. And one was, no drinking out on tour and stuff like that. So it was just a continuation of what I was already doing in my life. So it wasn't like I had already experienced drinking and then had to stop for the Insiders. That was just normal. So for me, to go from high school to the Insiders and there was no drinking while on tour or whatever like that, and I never saw the other guys in the band drink not on tour. It wasn't something that was in my life. It was just a non-issue.
Yep.
Then when the Insiders ended, I started working for the Salvation Army. Well, the Salvation Army, within their church rules, it's they're called the Articles of War, and one of the things is I will abstain from alcohol. So for the 13 years that I worked there, I wouldn't say 13, for 10 years that I worked there, 11 years that I worked there, I abstained from alcohol because, again, it was nothing that was ever a part of my life.
Yeah.
So it was just easy. It would be like saying, don't eat dandelions. Well, I haven't eaten dandelions up to this point.
Oh, you should.
So I'm not going to start tomorrow. So I just had never drank it. And then I hit age 30. And my ex-wife at the time had started going out with people. She had like got a new job or something like that. And she started going out with people from that job. And they would go out and like have a drink, and she had never drank either. But she'd be like, "Oh, I'll take a Diet Coke," and then somebody would get some fun cocktail and be like, "Oh, try this." So she would try it, and then she came home and she'd tell me like, "Oh, we had this one drink; it was like really good." And then we would like go to a restaurant or something, and she'd be like, let's order something. I'd be like, "All right." So we order something, and I remember like I would try it and be like, like this isn't bad, but it's not good. Like to a first time taste buds, that alcohol would really cut. And then like I would try like a beer, like if I was at like a friend's house, and the first time I tried a beer, I couldn't stand it. It was disgusting. So and I'm trying all like the normal ones. So like I try like a Miller Lite, disgusting. Try a Bud Light, disgusting. All that stuff is gross. Then out of the blue one day, I was going to have some friends over at the house, and I'm like, well, I know they drink, so I'll buy some beer. And one of the ones that caught my eye by the packaging was Sam Adams. Okay. And so I bought a 6-pack of Sam Adams Boston Lager, and I was like, well, I haven't tried one of these yet. So I cracked it, and I smelled it, and I'm like, that one smells a lot different than all these other corn water nonsense. Yep. I tasted the Sam Adams, and that one I loved. Okay. I thought the Sam Adams Boston Lager was amazing. And so like right around age 30 is when I started having my first drink. So it was like nothing but Sam Adams Boston Lagers. And then from there, I started like branching out. I still couldn't drink wine to save my life. It tasted like drinking vinegar. And then as far as liquor, I was always drinking because I had gotten, been drinking my wife's drinks. Like all the sweet, like Malibu
the
rum.
Fruity cocktails.
Yeah, the fruity stuff. Well, so, life goes on and whatever, and you try different things. And I think now as a 40-year-old, I know there's certain things that I can't drink. Like if I drink whiskey, the next day when they say like alcohol is a depressant, like the next day I really feel that. Okay. Like I feel like I'm not me. So like the next day after drinking whiskey or bourbon, I feel like angry and I kind of feel depressed. With gin, if I drink gin, I get not like I get like touchy-feely. So if I'm like drinking gin and I'm, around like my girlfriend or something, I like want to like hug on her more and like want to kiss her more and all that stuff. Beer makes me feel bloaty, like you just feel bloated.
Yeah, that's why I'm not.
And the next day you got you're bloated, you got beer farts, you got all that stuff. So it's funny, like in the last 6 months, I've really started cutting drinking out. Now again, I say all that and I say I could never drink wine because it tasted like vinegar. That's the one thing that I've acquired like a nice taste for. But you don't sit down with a bottle of wine like you do with the beer or a Jack and Coke or something like that.
Just chill in front of the TV.
Yeah, it's a social thing. There's definitely needs to be an event for it. I like to pair it with food. And then for my 40th birthday, my girlfriend bought me a really nice wine rack, and she stocked it with all sorts of wines. Some to drink now and some to save for later. That like a Sam had told her, these are the ones that you're going to want to get. And in 5-10 years, these are going to be fantastic wines. That's cool. So I have those downstairs, and I love going to the wineries in Canada. We go there a lot, and it's fun. So I like the culture around wine. I love all that. I think it's nerdy. I think it's sexy. Like to open a bottle of wine, just to pop that cork and pour it into a glass. There's something about it.
You just feel so refined.
Yeah,
It's weird.
But when I say sexy, I don't mean like I don't mean like trashy, lustful.
No,
like there's just something about
it's classy.
Yeah, just pouring it in there that's just like that is beautiful. Like that's like a beautiful sunset.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of my story to how I went from nothing to now.
Yeah, you know what? It's funny. Our story's really similar, as I was also a Salvation Army officer for 11 years, and no,
I was like, what?
You know, I grew up in a church. Yeah, I was Baptist, which is like, I mean, they didn't like anything. So I grew up in a church where you didn't drink. Like that was just kind of a given. And my parents didn't drink. My grandparents didn't drink. My aunts and uncles didn't drink. None of my friends' parents drank. It was like a non-thing. I didn't find out until a few years ago that my dad had a aunt who was alcoholic.
Okay.
And he kind of saw her like throw away her life, and so he made a very personal decision not to ever drink.
Right.
I didn't know that until a few years ago. It was just kind of the thing was that Christians didn't drink. That was the message I was always told. Christians don't drink because they can't control it.
Okay.
And I didn't ever, like we said earlier, I was a dorky youth group kid, so I didn't drink growing. I didn't go off to parties where people drank. I wasn't. I think my first party where there's any alcohol, I was 20, and my friend was throwing a Halloween party, and I left when he poured out alcohol.
Yeah,
like I was that shocked. I'm like, I don't want to be here. When I turned 21, my friends took me to Second City. They used to have one in Detroit, the comedy club, and they're like, "You get anything you want, Chris." And these were friends from church. And so,
you're like, I'll take a cherry Coke.
The youth pastor got like an Irish coffee, and my other friends who were there all got like wine and beer. I got a cappuccino. And then a few weeks after that, my parents were out of town. I was still living at home. My parents were out of town. My siblings were gone. I was getting off work, and I'm like, you know what? I'm 21, gosh darn it, I'm going to go buy a wine cooler. So I went to a party store. I'm 21 years old. It is legal and okay for me to do this. Yeah. I am shaking as I'm walking up to the cooler, and then like I'm afraid, like the guy's
it's like you're going into a peep show.
Yeah, the guy cards me, and I'm like, here you go. I'm 21.
Right.
So I get home, and I have this one solid. I didn't buy a case or anything. I just bought one little wine cooler for like $1. I get home, I open it, I take a sip, I immediately feel guilty because I'm drinking in my parents' house. I don't just dump it down there. I didn't want to throw it in their trash. So I drove and found another trash can down the road to throw it in.
Oh my gosh.
I felt so guilty.
Wow.
So like I really like drinking was like a big deal, and I don't even know why, because I didn't know anyone who'd screwed up their life by drinking. I didn't know anyone who was involved in drunk driving. I just knew you weren't supposed to do it. And it probably started to change in my mid-20s. I did this really ill-fated column series when I was at the newspaper where once a month I would try something new.
Okay.
And it was supposed to last me a whole year. It lasted about 8 months before it petered out because I kind of ran out of stuff to do. But one of the first things I did was I went to a wine tasting in the community. So I had my photographer go with me, and we kind of went around to this wine tasting, and I would have like a sip of white and a sip of red. And I hated it. Like, because, like you said, that first time you have wine, like especially like a red wine, it was like drinking vinegar. It tasted horrible. It was dry, and I was convinced I was getting drunk. Like I kept telling it was my friend Matt, who I actually do the other podcast I do with, and we still joke about it. Where like every 5 minutes, I think I'm getting buzzed. I think I'm getting buzzed. I think So that was my gateway, was drinking like little sips of wine, and then I don't know. I think my views on it relaxed out of nowhere. And I was house sitting for my brother once, and he had a pack of Corona because he started drinking. Like he'll drink beers, and so he had some Corona, and I drank that. And I'm like, oh well, that's terrible. And then I bought some. I started buying, like, going really edgy, getting Mike's Hard Lemonade. And
you're really stepping up to the big leagues.
And about that time, I started dating Kelly, and she grew up in a household where drinking was just something her parents did. And she didn't really drink a lot, but she didn't have a problem with it. So she would come over and she would have, the hard lemonade or something like that. And then when we got engaged, I bought a bottle of champagne. Or we went out to New Year's and they had champagne. And so we started loosening up a little bit on that. We had drinks on our honeymoon. Like, we went to this resort that had one of those, it was all-inclusive. Uh-huh. So you'd go up to the bar and they'd give you whatever you wanted. You never paid for it because you paid for it already. So we would get, like, little fruity drinks. And that's about all I could handle.
Yeah.
And then same way, we just started, trying more things. Sangrias I liked. I've grown to really like Jack and Cokes in the summer. Uh-huh. Those two, I like those a lot. Wine is our big thing, though.
Okay.
Like wine and cider. We both really like cider. And that's like our favorite thing is to go to a pub and just get like a nice tall cider. Wine, about once a week, we'll sit down after the kids are in bed and just pour wine and relax.
Yeah.
It's just such a nice way to like take the edge off after a week. And especially like, I don't know, like I love the fact that my wife and I pour a glass of wine and we just talk.
Yeah.
And
nobody gets
nice.
buzzed. Like,
No.
I grew up thinking that, like, if you drank, you got drunk.
Yeah.
Like, the first sip went in and you were staggering around.
Well, I will say, I'm a lightweight. Like, I like, if I have 2 glasses of wine, I'm pretty buzzed.
Okay.
I don't think I've ever been drunk, though.
See, I wish I could say I never have been. But I think when I first started drinking and first started having drinks, there were times where I was like, you drink and you catch that buzz, but you were so new to it. It was like, well, how far can I go with this buzz, before it turns the corner into something else? And I definitely know there were times, I can count on one hand, like so I'm 40 now, I can count on one hand in 10 years, when I can probably say that I crossed that line to being drunk.
Okay.
And there are some funny stories that go with that. Like, I think the first time I ever got, drunk, and this is disgusting, and even saying it, it makes me sick to my stomach. But when my ex-wife got me into it, and one of the things that she liked was amaretto, which is like the almond flavored liqueur. Yeah. And so we had this bottle of like amaretto at our house. And I'm just like, oh, liqueur, it's liquor. So I tried it on its own, it's this like sweet, nasty, whatever. So I'm like, oh, I can't drink that by itself. So what does Genius do? I mix it with orange juice.
Oh, no.
So over the course of like a night of binge watching Dexter, I drink an entire thing of orange juice and amaretto. And so the first time I ever get where I could probably say that I was drunk, like room spinning, sick to my stomach, was from amaretto and orange juice. To this day, I can't drink amaretto. I can't have it in anything, that whole taste, everything.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Maybe I'll take that back. I think maybe twice I have been. I remember on our honeymoon, we did this really nice dinner on the beach. And it was an expensive dinner. It was like my honeymoon gift to her. So it was like $200 dinner on the beach. And they just kept bringing out like wine, so they keep refilling our glasses. We're like, oh yeah, sure. And we're having steak and stuff, so we're pretty filled up.
Yeah.
Well, then after that, they're like, oh, here's dessert and here's champagne to go along with it. We're like, oh, great, yeah. Well, then they come out with something that was on fire. And it was a shot. It's the only shot I've ever done in my life. And I didn't want to like be like a wimp.
Right.
So I take it and I just like shoot it back and it burned so bad. But I do remember I was kind of stumbling back to our room then. And then the only other time, I think I had like 2 or 3 glasses of wine with dinner one night, which was probably too much for me. And all I remember is sitting on the couch. I'm at home. I'm at my apartment. And everything struck me as very funny. Like the littlest things, I would just bust out laughing. And I was feeling so good and so happy. That might be about it. Because I don't drink a ton. Like we drink once a week. If we have a glass of wine. Or like last weekend, we had this party for my mother-in-law, and we had put it together. So when it was done, we had some ginger beers at our house. And I'm like, oh, I'm going to go get some vodka. I'm going to make us some Moscow mules. Yeah. Which I'd never done before, and I made them very nice. But we don't drink a ton.
Yeah.
And I don't like the feeling of being out of control. Like, I had a stroke back in my early 20s.
You did?
Yeah.
Holy cow.
Yeah, just out of nowhere. They never really figured out what it was. Came and went after, in a day. And so I don't like that head spinning feeling because it reminds me of that.
Oh, wow.
So I don't like being out of control, but I do like relaxing with alcohol.
Yeah, I don't like being out of control, and I've never been, like, when I've gotten, let's say, drunk, my drunk is I go sit somewhere and fall asleep, and then the whole time I'm, like, asleep, I'm praying that the room stops spinning. Like, I don't get belligerent, I don't yell, I don't get crazy. I just disappear, and I'm suddenly sitting, somewhere in the other room just kind of going to sleep. But one time I did a 21-day juice fast. So for 21 days, all I did was juice for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, no solid foods. So at the end of this 21-day juice fast, I was like, I woke up, that day, and I was like, well, I should put something in my stomach. So, of course, what's the best thing to eat after 21? Was baby carrots.
Okay.
So I ate a bunch of baby carrots, like a bag of baby carrots, like throughout the day. And then after work, my buddy's like, hey, let's meet up at Kunin's Brewery, this amazing brewery place that was by our house. Well, they're known for like their high percentage alcohol drinks. Well, normally I could go in there and have, they're pretty high alcohol, so I can have like 4, right? And then, you kind of chill out, and then the buzz leaves, and you're good to go. Well, I went in there, and I had 1 beer. After 21-day juice fast, I had 1 beer, and I put it down, in a big, a tall, so it was probably, say 18 ounces maybe. I put it down, and I ordered another one, and I took like 2 sips from the other one, and I started getting real hot. Started feeling real hot, so I got up. I'm like, I excused myself from all my buddies, and I was like, I'm just going to go outside, get some fresh air. And with each step, I was like, my BAC, my blood alcohol was like doubling each step. And so I walk out, and I get outside. Stop barking. My dog's barking because I hit the table. So now you guys just got that. So I walk outside, and within seconds, like the entire world is spinning, and I'm going down fast. So I end up getting to my car, and I know that I can get in trouble for being in a car being drunk.
Yeah.
So I just take my keys and I throw them into the back windshield. I have the side door open. I'm just sitting there trying to breathe. Well, I can't even keep my eyes shut. And I can't keep my mouth closed. Like, it's just open. And after, I don't know how long it was, finally my buddies were like, where's Joe? So they go out in the parking lot and they see me. And I literally can't stand. I can't talk. I can't anything. So they take me home, and the good friends that they were opened my front door, shoved me in, and shut the front door. So I just face planted, and as soon as you walked into that house that I own, as soon as you walked in, there was a half bathroom right to the left. So when they shoved me in, I felt like my bottom half was in the foyer and my top half was in the bathroom. And that's where I was. And it was horrible. I felt horrible. And that was like 1 beer after a 21-day juice fast. So it's like I've never gotten drunk in life because I'm just like, I'm getting drunk tonight.
It kind of happens accidentally.
It's all been accidental. The only one that may not have been accidental was when I graduated from police academy. We rented out a big bar and restaurant, and we rented out the top floor, and everyone's there, and I was pacing myself really, really well, and I felt good. I had a nice buzz, and I was calling it quits. And it was right at the end of the night when we were about to leave, and one of my sergeants, who all through police academy was like the biggest jerk, but once you pass that wall and you're no longer a cadet and you're
they're buddy.
Yeah, then they're buddies with you. So he started buying shots. Oh, no. So I had all these beers throughout the night and paced myself, and I was doing real well. And right at the end, in about 10 minutes, I did in 10 minutes, I probably did 6 shots in 10 minutes. So after that 6th shot, I start going downstairs. I'm with my ex-wife, and another buddy of mine who we were dropping off at his house. We go outside. Everything's starting to get worse again with each step. I get into the car. I end up hanging my head out the side of the car window as we drive back just to have the cold air. I didn't know it. I puked all on the side of her car. It was awful. It was awful. So in that sense, it probably wasn't an accident because I was smart enough to know, like, I've had all these beers. Mm-hmm. If I throw down 6 shots in 10 minutes, this is probably going to be rough. But I just did it because I did it. And that was a regretful moment.
There was one night, we went out as a family to this pub in Ann Arbor. There's this Irish pub that we like to go to. And so we went and just had a nice dinner. My wife and I got ciders. And we were going to go walk around Ann Arbor afterwards. And my wife gets really mad because I nurse my drinks. Like, I don't drink very fast. I kind of nurse, and I usually don't finish them.
Okay.
And so she gets really frustrated. She's like, we got to go. Let's just go. And I'm like, no. She's like, well, if you're not going to finish your drink, I'm going to finish your drink. And I just was like, no, I'm going to prove a point. So I, like, pick this pint of cider up, and I just, like, just guzzle it all. I'm like, there, you see it. And we stood up to leave, and I'm like, whoa. And like kind of, and I had to take I think we had our daughter in a stroller at that point, and I'm like weeping down Ann Arbor. I'm like, oh,
good, Daddy's going to get you home safe.
So, okay, when your view changed on it, though, you began drinking, did you have any, like, spiritual wrestling with that, or have to, like, come up with it, or was it kind of like, yeah, okay?
You know what? For me, it was different because I was going through all sorts of things in my life at about that time. And so my marriage was on its way out. You know, I knew there was, you know, things were going on in my marriage, and everything that I was holding on so tight to Christ to help get through that storm, that all those little fringe things seemed just that.
Okay.
Like little fringe things. So, like, to grow up and, you know, alcohol this and alcohol that and smoking this and smoking that, like all these things that were like looked at as sins but like weren't really sins, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, they're not on the 10 Commandments, thou shalt not drink, you know, Jesus drank wine, you know, you could go through all these things. And I got to that point where I was holding on to Christ just so hard because of the storm that I was going through with my marriage and then with my divorce, that it just seemed corny at that point to be like, you know, it would be like a guy coming back from World War II and you just fought off the Germans or fought off the Japanese, and then there's like kids outside playing like squirt guns. Like, suddenly squirt guns doesn't seem so bad anymore.
Yeah.
When before going to war, you might be like, hey, don't point guns at other people. Don't do this. It's just frivolous. And so that's kind of how that changed me, in that sense that, like, I hold dear in my heart, in my soul, in my mind, the things of Christ that I wholeheartedly believe I need to be a better person, to go to heaven, to, you know, you name it. Those are those things that I hold dear. I don't hold dear anymore the frivolous little things that it's like, hey, I don't drink, so I'm a better Christian, and you do drink, so you're not. Like, that is out the door for me.
Yeah, I think it kind of stopped, almost in a lot of Christian circles, stopped being a huge issue, too, I learned. Like, as I was starting to kind of, you know, drink a little bit more, I think it was also because I was reading the Bible, and like you said, Jesus drank wine. Paul tells Timothy, drink a little wine to settle your stomach. You know, there's warnings about drunkenness and about abusing it. But I don't, you know, there's obviously nothing against it. And then, you know, I started realizing, oh, C.S. Lewis and, you know, Chesterton would go out and have pints of beer. And so, like, I think I didn't really struggle as much as I thought I was going to. I actually think, like, Christian culture now, when I look at it, there are very few people who seem to prohibit drinking anymore. Yeah. Like, like, I come from a Reformed culture, like Calvinist culture, and they love beer. Like, they love their beer. And I've learned, like, it actually can be, like, a great gift from God. Like, I think I think what it does for fellowship can be really good.
See, that's my thing. I think the social aspect of it, like I have a local tavern by my house, and I love going up there and just chit-chatting with people. And my girlfriend always, kind of yells at me, like, not yells at me, but, she's like, it's weird, it's sad that you go up to the bar by yourself. And I'm like, I'm driving up there by myself.
Yeah, but you're going to be.
But once I'm up there, there's, an 80-year-old guy named Russ who's there every single day. And he brings coffee for all the girls that work there in the morning. And then he reads the paper. And then around noon, he starts having a scotch. And when he finishes them, he like sets the straw down on the bar so he knows how many he's had. And I think he has like his 3 or 4 scotches, and then he leaves.
Yeah.
But like, so I chit-chat with him. I chit-chat with my buddy Paulie, who's, another older guy. He's like in his he's like in his 60s. And there's always these guys up there that you just go up and shoot the breeze with. And so I'm not up there alone. I'm like with these guys. And now I do have to say there has been times since I've been 30, and especially like after my divorce, where I found myself like with time on my hands and like I don't have my kids that day, where I have fallen into like, wow, I drank 4 times this week. And not like 4 drinks, like 4 chunks of time where I was drinking to where I got a nice buzz. And so there were times where I'm like, you know what, I've been drinking a lot lately, not to the point where like I'm an alcoholic, but I've realized self-evaluation, you know what, I need to hold off for a while. Just like if I ate cake every single day, or pizza, you got to hold off and be like, dude, I've had so much pizza lately, I need to hold off. And I'm actually in one of those little lulls right now is, my health. I had this whole thing with my stomach, and I'm trying to lose weight, and obviously alcohol is just pouring empty calories down your gullet. And I've probably gained a lot of weight from just alcohol. So right now I'm trying to like pull back from that. It's like socially, like instead of like coming home and like watching some movies and having a few beers, like I don't do that anymore. So I'll if I go to a party, like I might have, something, or the other day was the Michigan State football game. So I had like a glass of wine at that. So, you kind of go through those phases where you like, you kind of do that and you're like, I better hold off for a while.
I feel like that's a smarter place to be than the legalistic, like hands off. Like, I feel there's a songwriter like Derek Webb who he sang this song, A New Law, and one of the lines in it is, don't teach me about moderation and liberty, just give me a shot of grape juice, and I thought about that, and it's like, this whole idea that I'm saved by grace, but now tell me what to do, instead of, I think God wants us to think for ourselves.
Yeah.
And it does come to that point, like, and you have to do it with everything. I just last week I was like, wow, I had Taco Bell for 3 meals in the last 2 weeks.
Right.
I need to stop that, because that is not, that's going to kill me just as much as alcohol will. Like, and I think it can be, like the fellowship that comes with it. I thank God for alcohol sometimes, because I am I have social anxiety. If I'm in a group of people, I clam up. I can't talk. But if I have like a glass of wine with those people, I have great conversation with them.
And what I can't stand is like whether it's the Christian idea or whatever, it's like, well, if you need alcohol to loosen up, that's sad. And it's like, no, you don't get it.
Yeah, like, why were people drinking wine at that wedding Jesus was at?
Right.
It was a celebration. It was
the first miracle Jesus ever pulled off. Mary asked him to turn the water to wine. Hey, we ran out. And he's like, Mom, it's not my time yet. She's like, Jesus, do it. So he obeys his mom and turns water into wine.
Yeah.
And so there's a I want to say there's a biblical importance to it. For me, like, I'm not going to sit down and just like guzzle down a bottle of wine, but it's nice to have with a nice meal and to do this, to just kind of sip throughout an evening. An evening like tonight, like I got my glass, my sliding door open, windows open, it's nice and cool in here. It'd be a great time to pull out a nice red. So, that's how. I think your question was, how has it changed? And I think for me, it's changed in that sense that, like, I don't care anymore. Like, I don't look at it as taboo. And to those I'm around that may still think that way, I don't think any, like, less of them or think, like, oh, you know, pull the scales off your eyes. Or, like, do it to times, man. Like, whatever people choose to believe and to think and to carry out their lives, that's what they choose. I feel more freedom. I feel like the Christ that I worship, I'm closer to him now because I'm knocking down these stupid man-made rules, and I'm getting to the core of what I believe it is to be a Christian. And if I can accomplish those things and have a drink along the way, I'm okay. I'm not going to beat myself up, you know, over those things.
Yeah, no, same thing. Like, I feel like God has gifted us with wine. It's artistic. There's more, you can appreciate the craftsmanship in it. I love the fact that my wife and I can have a rough week, and we are just at wit's end, and it's Saturday night. It's just break open the wine. And let's get back to reality. Let's enjoy this again. Let's have fun.
Yeah.
I can talk to people with it. And yeah, I mean, I do still have friends who don't drink. My parents don't drink. I have family members who don't drink. I don't tell them, loosen up, have a beer.
Right.
I respect that. I think the Bible says respect that. If I'm not going to tell them, oh, you're the weaker brother.
Right.
I respect that. I understand the reasons you don't do it. I'm not going to drink around you.
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell my friend who doesn't drink, well, meet me at the bar. I'll just say, let's get a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
And I think it can be the other way around, too. I think Christians can kind of parade it a little too much. Like, I hate this whole mentality that people get excited. They're like, oh, man, it's wine o'clock.
Oh, I hate this.
And, like...
I hate this.
If you start talking about it as an escape, that might be an issue.
Right. And, like, what I hate is, what you're talking about, like, on Facebook. And I find it more with women. Like, with women... It's like wine has become like so socially acceptable with women where it's like, my kids are home. They're playing. I'm having wine. We're going here. I'm having wine. This, it's crazy how wine has become just like so acceptable. You go into Home Depot and Home Depot sells to go like wine tumbler. Like, it's like a wine glass inside of a thermos. So like you can take it on the go with you. Like that, this is bizarre to me. And so I don't like is that acceptable feeling when it comes to that. Like one thing that surprised me last year that it surprised me and I don't like it, but yet I do like it, is last year, like trick-or-treating. Like I show up to go trick-or-treating, we run into friends of ours that are trick-or-treating, and the kids are trick-or-treating, Dad's pulling a red wagon with a cooler full of beer.
Oh gosh, I don't know if I do like that.
So it's like everyone's walking, and like the parents are all walking, and everyone's cracking beers and kind of drinking as you walk through the neighborhood. And I had a ton of fun doing it, but I was like, I don't think this is like the best example to set for kids here.
Yeah, and I do worry about it becoming so commonplace that you don't have any restrictions on it.
But again, in saying that, this just jumps to the forefront of my mind. In Germany, like we had the privilege of touring with a band called Good Weather Forecast. It's this great German like party band, and when I say party band, like the music they play is like, what you would like dance music. They start out a ska band and then have like kind of moved into more like really progressive, almost like that retro 80s, type dance music. So like stuff you'd play at a party. And we would talk to them about beer and stuff like that, obviously being Germany and us being stupid Americans that ask the same questions that probably all Americans ask Germans. And so like their whole thing is like, you can order a beer as soon as your head is over the bar. So like as soon as you can see over the bar, you can order a beer. But there it's not looked at like so taboo. So just like here, my daughter knows to not go in the kitchen and eat an entire cheesecake. If you eat an entire cheesecake, you're going to get sick, you're going to get fat, you're going to get all this stuff. So they're taught you don't want to go do that. In the same way that like most of the guys in Germany that we spoke to, like that's how they looked at beer. Like, oh yeah, I love my beer. I love my German beer. Kind of how we're talking about wine. Mm-hmm. And you have it throughout the day at various times, but it's not like we do here where it's like, oh man, I have the night off tonight. So starting at 7 o'clock, I'm drinking till I black out by 10. Mm-hmm. I'm going to drink as much as I can during the game, and then you just get blitzed. In Germany, it's not like that. So I tend to think, are we making it worse for the kids by making it more acceptable? Or are we maybe turning that corner that it's acceptable in moderation?
Well, I think, when you treat it like just a part of life, like I'm going to have a bottle, or not a bottle of wine at dinner, but a glass of wine at dinner, just like I would have a Coca-Cola, and it's just a normal part of life. I think you take away the taboo a little bit, and I don't think it becomes as alluring to do something wrong.
Right.
Like, I think I've heard that in countries where, people just kind of openly accept drinking, there's less alcoholism.
Yeah.
And, like, we've talked about, like, I don't want my kids to grow up thinking, a Christian doesn't drink. My wife and I'll have a glass of wine with dinner from time to time, and our kids watch us, and they know, this is not for you. This is something you can have when you're much older.
Right.
And they get that, and I hope that when they're old enough, they know. Like, obviously, I'm still going to tell them, if you're under 21, you don't drink.
Right.
That's the law. You don't do that, and you need to be smart when you are 21 about what you drink, because it can get out of hand very quickly, and I want to set the example. Like, watch me, how I handle it, like, if I can handle it responsibly. I personally just made a vow that I wouldn't be the dad who sits at home with a beer, like, in front of the TV. I try, and if I drink, I make sure it's something I do with my wife or friends.
Right.
Because I don't want to be put in that position where it's an escape for me after a hard day. I need alcohol to help me cope.
Right.
I would rather it have a positive connotation that it's...
Now, there is something to be said for, like, a super hot day, coming home from work and cracking. See, like, to me, with beer, I think there's, like, your crappy beers, your Coors Light, Miller Lite, Bud Light. That's all, like, corn water. And then you have all your mixed, your micro brews and all that stuff that become heavier and, better crafted. But I do have to say, on like a super hot day, I've been in a dark uniform all day with body armor on, just sweating like mad. It's great to come home and just crack open a Coors Light and to just, I could put one down like in a gulp.
I don't find it refreshing. That's my problem with beer.
See, I do with that. Like, I couldn't come home and crack open an IPA.
Okay.
I couldn't come home and crack open a Boston Lager, or a microbrew. But those crappy, cheap beers that it's just like corn water, like diluted corn water. Oh man, Coors Lights go down so good on a hot. Like, I could come home and just crack one in one gulp. One's gone, crack another one, and then start to sip that one, and then I'm good.
I don't know if I can bring myself to do that. But yeah, I mean, like, I think being smart with it is the thing.
Yeah.
Like, and being mindful of other people. Like, my wife and I, we drank from time to time. We had a dry wedding because we knew there were people in our families who had been alcoholics, and we didn't want to put that temptation in front of them. And we kind of knew if we don't put that temptation in front of them, we'll have a much better wedding reception than the one. But there was a bar downstairs if they wanted to.
Now, it's funny that you say that because I grew up with my back just popped. With every wedding that I went to was a dry wedding.
Yeah, me too.
It wasn't until 5 years ago that I actually went to a wedding where, like, there's alcohol and stuff. The difference between weddings are night and day.
Oh my gosh.
Dry weddings to me are so boring. And then you get a wedding where there's some drinking. Dry weddings, it takes everything to get people out on the dance floor. A wet wedding, let's just call it. Time for a wet wedding. Where people are drinking, the music starts, boom, dance floor is open. People are dancing on the dance floor.
Oh, yeah.
And it makes it more fun. Like, everyone's so lighthearted. Everyone's having a good time. At the end of the night, you got the fights. You know what I mean? Because somebody always has too much, and then they get into it with their, girlfriend or their date. So the end of the night of a drinking wedding are always good fireworks. But now that I'm older, I absolutely love weddings where I can go and have a drink.
Oh my gosh, those are fun.
Because I hate weddings. After getting a divorce, I hate weddings. Like, I look at them different. I have a lot of issues with weddings. And so they're not fun to me. So to go and sit there and not be able to have a drink sucks. But to go to a wedding where I hate weddings, I hate what they stand for, I hate all that stuff. Again, that's a whole different topic for a different day. Where I can have a couple of drinks and loosen up, and then I can enjoy the wedding or the reception. Let's say the reception, not the wedding. I'm not drinking during the wedding.
Well, that would be weird. But that might make it bearable.
That may make it bearable.
I grew up Baptist, so our weddings were not only dry, there was no dancing. It was a banquet. It was like the reception was a banquet. You would go and eat and
mastacholi, meatballs, baked chicken.
But oh my gosh, going to a wedding where there's like, and I don't even dance. Like, I don't dance at weddings. I just don't dance. Period. Because
even with a few drinks in you don't dance.
I am way too self-conscious.
So if we have enough people donate to where
dance.
We do a barbecue and we have music and we have drinking.
I rarely danced at my wedding. My wife loves to dance. I fell in love with my wife because she was dancing on the floor and got me out there.
Was she doing the flash dance?
No, I'm a man. Oddly enough, our first dance was to Billie Jean at a wedding. I'm like, this might not be the song to form a relationship on. But yeah, at our wedding, like, she was out on the dance floor and I'm talking to my friends the whole time.
Nice.
And I got out for the dances I needed to. But I always feel like so self-conscious. But maybe if I had more drinks at a wedding. We do go a few New Year's Eves, we'll go to this big party in Shelby Township at like it's like at a banquet center.
Uh-huh.
And we'll save up some money for a bit and we'll pay and we'll go, and it's like a beautiful prime rib dinner and they have dancing and drinking, and that's fun. I'll get out there.
Shelby, from where you live, is like an hour and a half away.
I know. I used to work in Shelby Township, so I knew of this place.
Oh, wow.
And when I was dating my wife, I lived in Roseville, so it wasn't that far.
Oh, okay.
And then we've just gone back a few times. So I think we've covered pretty much everything we need to on drinking.
All right.
I think we have solved the problem for people.
Well, let's have a drink now.
Right.
Now that this is over, let's start drinking.
Let's raise a glass to the Cross Culture Critic podcast.
There you go.
So if you agree or disagree with us, find us on Facebook and Twitter. Go to Patreon. Give us some bucks if you want to see me dance.
Post any microbrews from other states or whatever that you like to drink or anything that you guys are drinking now.
That's right. Find old episodes on iTunes. Please give us a rating if you can. And we will see you in a week.
Cool. See you.
Bye.